nobody recruits you. There's no interview, no application, no moment you can point to and say that's where it started. Someone hands you a package on a street corner when you're 15 years old and you take it because saying no was never actually one of the options available in that room, even though it felt like it was. By rank 5, you'll understand exactly what that package cost you. Not the money, the actual cost. You don't know that yet. Nobody does at the start. That's the whole point of a start. You stand on a corner for 4 hours at a time, most days, sometimes 6 if the schedule shifts and nobody tells you until you're already there. Your job is simple enough to explain in one sentence. Watch the street and make one phone call if a certain kind of car turns onto it. That's it. That's the entire job description. And you are, for the first time in your life, extremely good at a job. You get paid more for 4 hours of standing than your mother makes in 2 full days of cleaning other people's offices, and you notice that math immediately, the way you notice everything at 15. You feel, for maybe the first time, like you matter to something bigger than your own house, your own street, your own small version of the world. That feeling is not wrong, exactly. It's just not telling you the whole truth about what you now belong to, or what belonging to it will eventually ask of you. You don't know yet that watching a corner and being watched are the same job, from 2 different sides of the same street. You move packages between houses now, on a bike at first, then a car once you're old enough that a car doesn't draw attention. You don't ask what's inside any of them, and the not asking turns out to be the actual skill they're paying you for, not the driving, not the punctuality, the specific discipline of not wanting to know. You've gotten good at looking like a kid running an errand for his uncle, which, as far as anyone watching from outside is concerned, is exactly what you are. And the costume works because it isn't really a costume. The money changes what your family eats, what shoes your little brother wears to school, whether the electric bill gets paid on the day it's due or 2 weeks late with a fee attached. Nobody in your house asks where any of it comes from either. Everyone in this particular story, it turns out, has gotten very good at not asking things, all the way up and down the chain. And that skill is the thing that actually holds the whole structure together. The not asking works right up until the day someone asks you something directly, and you find out you don't get to not answer. They give you a car now, a real one, registered to a name that isn't quite yours, but close enough not to raise questions at a gas station or a checkpoint. A phone that isn't your phone, that you're told to keep charged at all times and never, under any circumstance, let ring through to voicemail. Voicemail means someone couldn't reach you, and someone not being able to reach you means something has already gone wrong somewhere upstream. A number to call if anything looks wrong. Not a person's name, just a number. Memorized. Never written down anywhere a stranger could find it. Which means someone above you has decided you're worth protecting enough to give you a direct line into the structure. Which means someone above that person has made the exact same calculation about them, and so on. Up through a chain, you're only now starting to sense the real shape of. The way you sense a building's height by standing at its base and craning your neck. You're inside it in a way you weren't before. Not doing occasional jobs for it, but actually part of how it moves day to day, which feels different in your chest than the earlier ranks did. Heavier, but also uncomfortably, more like belonging. You've started to understand that the corner you used to stand on, the one that felt like the whole world at 14, is the smallest and most replaceable piece of something that goes up much further than you can currently see from where you're standing. And that realization arrives less like fear and more like vertigo. You can see one level up from here. You cannot yet see how far down the fall is from wherever you eventually end up. You're asked to make someone afraid, not hurt, afraid, which turns out to be a very precise, very learnable skill, mostly about posture and silence, and how long you let a pause sit in a room before you speak into it, and the specific way you look at someone's hands instead of their face so they can't read anything in your expression. You turn out to be good at it, better than you expected to be, better than you wanted to find out you were. You go to a man's house and stand in his doorway and say very little, and it works exactly the way it's supposed to work. The man's voice changes register within about 30 seconds, and you both understand something has been settled without either of you naming what it was. You drive home and eat dinner like the day was an ordinary day, because as far as your body seems to be concerned, it was. This is the part nobody explains to you in advance. How ordinary the drive home actually feels, how the radio still plays whatever it was playing before, how little your hands seem to know. 3 hours later, holding a fork at your own kitchen table about what they were doing that afternoon in someone else's doorway. The next time, they don't ask you to make someone afraid. Something happens. You know exactly what it is. You're not going to walk through the details because the details aren't the point. The point is that it was irreversible, that it was your hands, that there is no version of the rest of your life that doesn't have this sitting inside it now, permanently, whether you look at it or not. You go home. You sit at the same table you've eaten at your entire life. Your hands are completely still, and that stillness is the most honest thing about you right now, because everything else in you is somewhere else entirely, some distance away from your own body that you don't have a word for yet. Monday comes anyway. Someone hands you the next assignment like nothing happened, because to them, nothing did. You sit with what you now are. Not what you thought you were becoming when you were 15 on that corner. What you actually are now, based entirely on the one thing you cannot undo. And you decide to stay, not because you've stopped understanding the cost, because you understand it completely for the first time, with nothing hidden from yourself anymore. And staying is still the choice you make with that full and total understanding in front of you. You pick up the next assignment off the table. Nobody announces the decision out loud. It simply becomes true the way most real decisions do. Once you decide with full information, everything after this is just the shape of that decision playing itself out. You run people now, 12 of them at first, then 20, then a number you stop tracking precisely because precision stops being the point. You understand the structure from the inside in a way you never could from a street corner, which loyalties in this business are real and which are simply rented by the week, which favors are actually debts wearing better manners, which silences mean agreement, and which means something is being planned that you haven't been told about yet. You solve problems that would end in someone's death if you solved them carelessly, and you've stopped finding that fact remarkable, which is itself a fact worth noticing, if you still had the habit of noticing things about yourself. The job has gotten quieter, not easier, quieter, which is a different thing entirely. And the quiet is its own kind of cost that you've stopped registering as a cost at all. They start asking your opinion on things that used to be decided several levels above you. You're the one who decides now. The one whose doorway some 15-year-old lookout 3 streets over will one day stand outside of, terrified, without knowing your name or your face or anything about the path that got you here. You built this, or you inherited it, or some combination of both that stopped being a meaningful distinction somewhere around rank 6, when the choosing and the being chosen for blurred into the same motion. You are exactly as far from that original street corner as the entire structure always was from the outside looking in, and exactly as close to it as you have ever been in your life. Because those two distances, it turns out, were always the same distance, just measured from opposite ends of one very long chain. Every version of you is still there, somewhere. The lookout who felt for the first time like he mattered to something. The runner who got good at not asking. The one who went home after and ate dinner like the day had been an ordinary day. You didn't replace any of them on the way up. The thing that happened at rank 5 is still exactly as permanent as it was on the day it happened. Permanence doesn't fade. It just gets built around. You built a life large enough around it that most days, you don't have to look directly at where it lives inside you. Most days. Not all of them.